So over the weekend, we got a lot of news and updates about different movies and TV shows out of Comic-Con, just like we do every year. But there's one in particular that's really standing out to a lot of people, and that's because Robert Downey Jr. has been revealed to be Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom in the MCU. And that's coming along with the announcement that Anthony and Joe Russo are going to be directing Avengers Doomsday for 2026. And a lot of people have very mixed feelings. There's a lot of people who support this casting decision and a lot of people that don't. And while I'm gonna go into that movie with an open mind, I would love for my mind to be changed. I'm one of those people who don't think it was the right choice. And before I explain why I don't really love this casting decision, I want to say that I really love Robert Downey Jr. as an actor. Obviously, he did a great job with Iron Man. He helped build the MCU. And even outside of the MCU, I think he's a great actor who's had some great roles over the years. And as an actor, I think he definitely has the capabilities and the range to be able to pull this character off. But he's Tony Stark. That's the problem. Not that it's a bad casting choice in and of itself, but because he's already maybe the biggest character in the entire MCU overall. I think that in this era of the multiverse stories, it's a bad idea to bring back your biggest actor to be an all-new character, a fan favorite character that's gonna play a massive role in the future of the MCU. I think you're just opening the door for all the casual fans to not know what's going on. The only way I can really see this working is if this is a multiverse variant of Doctor Doom who happens to be Tony Stark. And while we don't really have any reference for how that would look from the comics, it's in the hands of Anthony and Joe Russo, and they've done a great job with all their MCU entries so far, so I'm sure they could figure it out. But I would be concerned if that's the route that they intend to go with, because introducing Doctor Doom, such an important Marvel character and a fan favorite, as just an alternate version of Tony Stark would be, in my opinion, just a massive disservice to the character and who he is and where he comes from. And I've seen everybody saying, oh, they could be going for the infamous Iron Man storyline. Unfortunately, that wouldn't be accurate, because the infamous Iron Man storyline is when Doctor Doom becomes Iron Man while Tony Stark is in a coma or whatever he's in. But either way, it has nothing to do with Tony Stark becoming Doctor Doom. That doesn't happen. So if they were gonna do a play on it and just Uno reverse it, then so be it, but that wouldn't really be a comic storyline. And it would kind of be the first of its kind for the character as well. A Tony Stark becoming Doctor Doom, that would be the first time we've ever seen that. The only way it would really make sense from a comic standpoint is if they were adapting a mind swap storyline where Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom swap minds and it's really just Victor Von Doom in Tony Stark's body. That could work. And then couple that with being from another universe in the multiverse, that could work. Again, kind of confusing for the casual fans who don't keep up with stuff as much, but I think that could be fun. And I think that would fit just fine with what they did at Comic-Con, which was reintroduce Robert Downey Jr. not only as Doctor Doom, but as Victor Von Doom specifically. My main concern about this whole thing is that they're gonna try to make Robert Downey Jr. the main universe's Victor Von Doom and just, not explain it? I've heard people say, oh, he's gonna be behind the masks the whole time. But in my opinion, that would be kind of an oversight, because then you'd be ruling out any possibility of having a storyline where he doesn't have the mask on. You'd be ruling out the possibility of an origin story or just a story that he has his origin in. And why would you put yourself in that box? Now, in the hands of the Russo brothers and some multiverse shenanigans, I think the story and the casting could be great. But unfortunately, how it feels to me is they're trying to capitalize on the group of people who just aren't over Tony Stark's death yet, and they want Robert Downey Jr. back by any means necessary, and they don't care how. I think that this really appeals to those people, big Robert Downey Jr. fans, or big fans of his portrayal of Tony Stark, but in my opinion, that's not a good enough reason to bring him back. I know people really miss him, I know people really miss Iron Man, but honestly, his story wrapped up in a nice little bow, and now we're gonna bring him back, and I know it's not really gonna be Tony Stark, but it's gonna get brought up if anyone ever finds out what he looks like. The MCU has been kind of hit or miss ever since Avengers Endgame. There have been some great things to come out, and there have been some not so great things to come out. I think that kind of lukewarm reception might have also played a factor in this. It's like, we don't really need to bring Robert Downey Jr. back, but people are kind of not super happy with the consistency lately. What about earlier MCU did people used to love? Oh, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, let's bring him back.
You can rest now.
No, you can't, because we need you to come back and carry the MCU. Another reason that I really hope Robert Downey Jr. isn't our main universe Doctor Doom is that by casting Robert Downey Jr., you kind of erase Doctor Doom's history, his origin, his ethnicity, all these things that factor into what makes Doctor Doom Doctor Doom. You'd kind of be tossing aside the original motivations of the character, and while it could be great, even if he is this universe's Doctor Doom, the one that we're going to be dealing with for movies and movies to come, even if all of the projects are good, you'd still have a lot of Doctor Doom fans saying, oh, you kind of just threw aside part of his character and let it just fall by the wayside. And again, if you're trying to get people back on board with the MCU, if you're trying to get people excited again, why would you put yourself in that situation? If you're Marvel, this is your third attempt to make a good live-action Doctor Doom. And we've had two in the past that kind of weren't received super well, and now you've got this opportunity to redeem yourself. Please just don't blow it. That's all we're asking, just don't blow it. And I know people have been saying, so what if Robert Downey Jr. is gonna be our Victor Von Doom for the MCU? Sure, he was Tony Stark, but now he's Victor Von Doom. Why not? Because Chris Evans was able to go from Human Torch to Captain America. I get what you're saying, but this is a completely different scenario. Iron Man was the biggest character in the MCU up until his death. And still, if you ask people who the biggest character in the MCU is, he'd probably still be either mentioned first or second, depending on who you ask. And now you're gonna have him back as Doctor Doom. It's not at all comparable to Chris Evans being Human Torch in two Fantastic Four movies that probably most of the MCU fans haven't even seen. Chris Evans as the Human Torch is even less related to the MCU than Josh Brolin as Cable is. And that's a whole nother thing that came up in that argument as well. But as far as I'm concerned, those are loosely connected to the MCU. It's not the main story, the main timeline. I think that's the difference for a lot of people. I know this video is gonna come off kind of negative and skeptical, but that's just a reflection of how I'm feeling. I don't wanna feel super negative about this casting announcement, but I am highly skeptical about it. I think a lot of it is riding on the story that they choose to tell and how they make it make sense. Fortunately, the silver lining is that it's going to be directed by the Russo brothers, who of course have done an amazing job with everything that they've done for the MCU so far. I am confident in the Russo brothers, but I'm losing confidence in Marvel as a whole, kind of. And again, I would love for them to prove me wrong. I would love for them to go out there and make it all make sense and make a great movie. And Marvel can absolutely win me back over. I could have faith in Marvel again. But for that to happen, I need to walk out of the theater not saying, oh, that was all right. Oh, that was pretty good. You know, I want to walk out of the theater and be excited for the next thing again. And that's something that hasn't happened in a while. And hopefully this can get them back on track. I don't know if I believe that it will, but hopefully I am wrong. If you stuck around to the end of my rambling, thanks for sticking around. I just had to get some of these thoughts out of my head while they're still fresh. If you want to help me out here on YouTube, giving this video a like, commenting, subscribing to the channel, all those things help me grow the channel, and they're much appreciated. They give me motivation to keep making videos. But until next time, bye.